So we're hearing more and more discourse about a civil war in France.
And let me just add to that, Gearoid Calvar, in that same statement, correct me if I'm wrong, and you did allude to this on your recent blog post on June 26th. He also said that this would feature a truck attack.
Yeah.
So he even said it was going to be a truck attack. I mean, I'm standing here just from a layman's perspective, well, maybe a little bit more than a layman, but from the average Joe should be reading that with a little bit of suspicion, but yet no one wants to look in that direction. Like, could elements of the state or the intelligence apparatus or a shadow state, could they be possibly involved in an event like this? Because certainly it's happened in the past. If you look at the history of Operation Gladio, for instance.
Sure. I mean, the thing about it is, he did mention the fact that trucks were being used and would be used. And there's no way of knowing for sure who exactly carried out the attack. But what is certain is that they have an uncanny ability to predict attacks, and then are seemingly are helpless in terms of preventing those attacks. And we must bear in mind that we have a state of emergency. We have soldiers and police everywhere. It's a major operation going on since the Bataclan attacks in 2015, November 2015. So why are they so incompetent when it comes to securing public spaces, particularly in the context of Bastille Day? You know, I mean, it should have been impossible to attack people in a public place in Bastille Day in that way. I mean, with a truck. I mean, how it just seems inconceivable that this could have happened.
We were talking about that, early in the show, and Mike Robinson and I were talking about it, and we said, Notting Hill Carnival, which is a big event here in the UK, maybe 1 million people come out on the street. You can't even, and this is even before terrorism was a major feature. You couldn't get a bicycle through the barriers of this whole section of London. Forget about a car, much less an HGV truck or lorry. You couldn't even get a bicycle or a baby pram through. Okay. Yeah. How is it possible on this promenade in this very busy area on Bastille Day with all of these pedestrians, basically flooding onto the street? How, and it not being cars not being, I mean, I thought the street would be blocked off with that many people for the celebration.
It's ridiculous. Look, we don't know exactly what happened. Like with a lot of these terrorist attacks, there's 84 people reported dead. We've got a lot of reports, but there's no way of verifying what exactly happened. Like a lot of these terrorist attacks, you see videos posted subsequently which show troubling images. Like I saw a few images of bodies that didn't really look like bodies. They looked like dummies to me. But I don't know who's posting those videos. I don't know whether that's even, relevant to the Nice attack. You really to verify, I think the first thing to do with these attacks would be to verify what happened. First of all, can we get the list of all the people who were killed? Are there autopsy reports that people could consult just to verify that we had 84 people and they were killed in this place at this time by that truck? And we say, okay, so now we have the what of the attack. And then we have the question of the who and how and the why.
The problem. So there's some truth to both of those, but this gets very complicated very quickly, and I think a lot of people just shut off, Gearoid. Mm-hmm. They switch off and they go for Pokemon games on the smartphone instead of engaging with this. But so my conclusion here, I'll cut it short. I think we need to start looking at this and being honest that what we're looking at here is we are being run by an international organized crime syndicate. And that I believe it's infiltrated every level of public and corporate institutions. And the fact that this is the source of the problem. It is not the clash of civilizations. In fact, above all else, the clash of civilizations has been fostered and created by what I believe is an organized crime syndicate. And their useful tools are people like Rupert Murdoch, Silvio Berlusconi, George Soros, George Bush, the House of Saud, Netanyahu, Sheldon Adelson, Bill Gates, Blair, Bono, Even Bono is a functionary of that in a way. It gives it political cover. So the problem is we can't have this conversation. A lot of people just will refuse to even look down this, even with all the evidence, Gearoid, of the Operation Gladio, all of that, NATO intelligence, etc., CIA involvement in killing European civilians, many of them, in fact. Why can we not factor some of this analysis into what we're seeing today is my question.
I think that the psychologists have this thing they refer to as the justification theory, which is, I believe, this idea that people have a need to believe in the goodness or the soundness of the system under which they live. That you kind of need to believe that things are really not that bad, and that you filter out anything that you just don't want to see. So it really does come down to people not being able to handle the truth. It's just too much. And because we live as well in a consumer society, as Marx described capitalist society as a great assemblage of commodities. We live in a wonder world of commodities. People go out and watch football and go shopping and sort of get lost in that world of commodities where, and that sort of wonder world, and forget about reality. They feed the masses, dumb down shows, reality TV, atrociously poor quality music. The schooling system is designed not to educate people, but to socialize, simply to socialize people, to make them obedient, to make them learn by rote, but rather than learning by understanding and critical analysis and reflection. So that the entire university system is the same. It's been bought out by corporations. So people go and they do, an arts degree. They should be coming out as critical thinkers. They come out as trained donkeys, basically. They cannot think. They cannot reflect. So the entire system is kind of, there are major structural problems in the system that prevents people from critically engaging with information. And I think that notion of systems justification, the need that many people have, emotionally perhaps psychological need to believe that maybe things are not that bad. Yes, we're run by criminals, but they wouldn't do that. They're not that bad, and that kind of thing. It's very difficult. Of course, it's almost impossible to really believe it. I mean, I don't believe it. I can't believe it in the sense that it's almost impossible to believe it. But I mean, when you look at the evidence, what can you say? It's like it's impossible to believe that we're run by a criminal syndicate. The world. It's too big. It's too big to grasp that. So you still look at it and kind of say, no, it's not possible. But then when you have to be honest and you look at the information, you say, well, for example, look at some of these terrorist attacks, in terms of what happened, I can't say for sure. I believe to a certain extent, but I believe in inverted commas that 84 people were killed, but I can't verify it. I haven't seen the bodies. I haven't spoken to the families. I haven't seen autopsy reports. I assume it, so I accept it. But that's the decision, right? So if you show me a couple of videos with dummies in them, and you say, this is from the scene of the attack. Well, I'm going to have doubts then about the what of the event. What actually happened. Did anything happen? This is the big problem with a lot of these terrorist attacks nowadays. That there is the constant false flag element to terrorist attacks, but there's also the sort of suspicion that in many attacks what is reported is either a sort of parallel crisis actor scenario where they're literally actors. And whether that's just for the media, whether they just, I don't know. I mean, what is that about? I have no idea. I don't know how to. For me, it seems almost impossible to believe that so many people could be involved in that. It's one thing for an agency to get some guy like this attacker here and put him up to it for, by whatever means necessary, drugs or brainwashing or whatever, and get him to commit suicide effectively, to massacre people. It's another thing to organize an entire operation. Of course, one question one must always ask, of course, is, was there a simulation? Was there an anti-terror drill at the same time, at the same place? You've seen that we saw that in the London attacks in 2005, is that 2007?
2005.
2005, yeah. And July 7th, 2005. They admitted that they were conducting an anti-terror drill on, involving the same scenario at the same time in the same place. We saw that also in the Bataclan terror attack last year.
Exactly.
We had a major simulation occurring involving a similar scenario on the same day. So this is the thing. I mean, because of technology nowadays, because of the way information can be manipulated, edited, and so on, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find out what actually happened when a terrorist attack is reported, because we're living in this kind of a virtual reality world. Nothing is real until it's validated by corporate media.
It's when CNN when Anderson Cooper shows up and they sits down and has these emotional, heart-wrenching interviews. Tell us what it was like. What were you feeling at that point?
Yeah.
How did you feel? What was going through your mind? And then you take the glasses off for dramatic effect. And then in some of these cases, Gearoid, especially with Orlando and the Bataclan, I can give you examples, more than one, actually, maybe a half a dozen, of known actors, people who are registered with acting agencies. In the case of the Bataclan, absolutely. And this gal, English actress, I guess, went off on, I think it was CBS News and a couple of other channels. And in Orlando, we saw more, and I could say the same on some other events. So it's this curious, it's kind of beyond a trend or a coincidence. Either there's millions of actors out there, or that they seem to be showing up at these events, just by I guess serendipity. But it's kind of gotten beyond a joke, and I often think, what is there a big joke going on here on some level, or is this just basically the controlling of news in a way that in a kind of a Citizen Kane pastiche, where if there's no news today, the editor would pull out a revolver and shoot somebody from the fourth floor on Madison Avenue, and there was your headline.